Large cappuccino. Orders up.
They say you can find it here in Ohio, and today we found the Athlete Cafe podcast. Welcome back. Guys, how are we doing in the
He really planned that. He really planned that one for you guys. He's really proud of it, if you can't tell.
Yeah. It was a good line. No, the snow is...
Yeah, Cleveland decided to become a snow globe today, and it's just...
shaking us up. Like you do with
But
the
it's
snow
okay,
globe.
because it's a Friday.
Yeah.
It adds to the
Friday.
ambiance of the day.
Yeah.
It's really snow problem.
And that's the end of the episode. See you guys next time.
Let's get into it. Today is going to be...
Today's actually a fun one.
a much different podcast than what we normally do. We pick a topic, we discuss it. We've done a Q&A, we've done interviews, we've done mental breakdowns of the best sporting events in the world.
Here.
We can find it here, except now we're going to find more here with maybe the best episode we have planned to date. Case studies, right? Whoa, I should have asked for a drum roll, but
to the new
I
year.
spoiled it.
2025.
Right?
Oh, what is that? Have you ever seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine when he asks for a drum roll and he does this instead? No.
I only
It's
know
like
the
the little
shout
drummer
song.
boy. Or like Kanye's Runaway. No, anyway. Case studies. We're going to present case studies. We're going to kind of and also talk about some of the clients we have and what we kind of, can see out of who we work with, what we kind of get, how we break down, the small little paragraph blurb that we get and churn it into all of the topics that we talked to you about before. So I think this is going to be really cool. And I'm not going first. So one of you two will be explaining your case study first. And whoever wants to go, whenever they're ready.
I can go. Right. We thought this would be a fun one to do just because I think a lot of times we get, the feedback of, well, is mental performance coaching something that I would benefit from? What kind of athlete benefits from this? And we always say all athletes can benefit from this. So we thought it would be interesting to just give, a couple of examples of, intro or kind of inquiry emails that we've gotten and conversations we've had with parents, what that ends up looking like and kind of what those athletes we talk about with them and then kind of the results that they've seen. So the first one that I kind of want to go through is one of my gymnasts that I've worked with. She came to us July of 2023, I think. She's been around a little bit. And, her mom originally reached out. She was an upper level gymnast that was really struggling with vault in particular. It was the first year she had to do a flipping vault. So you run, you hit the table, and then you have to do a full rotation in the air before you hit the ground. She was struggling with that, and she was struggling with her series on beam, which is a very, very common thing that I see with my athletes. And technique-wise, she was right where she needed to be, which, I hear a lot. My body knows how to do it. I physically can do it, but just mentally, I'm scared of it or I'm having a mental block on it. So, she came in, we started working. Honestly, she was a little skeptical at first. She had worked with another mental performance coach or somebody, kind of in the sports psychology realm, and it just wasn't, I think, a great fit for her. I think it was a little bit more of a week 1, you do this, week 2, you do this, week 3, you do this, with a lack of, flexibility for what that particular athlete was going through. So, honestly, it took a little bit to build that rapport with her. I think she was a little inconsistent with scheduling. She didn't really, have that full buy-in, which we see all the time and we just know is part of this. And we know how to work through that and we know how to get athletes comfortable on these calls where it's something that they want to do versus parents being like, hey, I signed you up for this thing. Get on this call with this person you don't know. So we've worked on a lot of different things. We've been through a couple of upgrade seasons. We've been through a couple of meet seasons. And we've worked on tons of different things. I think the biggest thing that we worked on to begin with is just her confidence to believe that she could be an upper level gymnast. I think, when you get to be a level 8, a level 9, a level 10 in gymnastics, that's where the big girls are. And I think, she's young. She's kind of worked her way up pretty quickly. And she, I think, was struggling with kind of the identity of being a higher level athlete. So we started kind of going through that, helping her say, you know what, I am ready to work these skills. I am ready and capable. And my coaches would not have me, in level 8, level 9 if I was not ready for it. Then we did a lot of work on self-talk because that was a big part of it, of she was talking herself out of these skills before she had even gotten on the equipment because she just needed to have the belief that she deserved to be there. And then, it's kind of even branched outside of gymnastics. She has, as teenage girls are, some difficult teammates. She has some teammates that are just not nice. And that is, just part of it is, these girls can be mean and you're all competing against each other in gymnastics. So oftentimes your teammate is your biggest competition because you know exactly what they're bringing to the table. So one of the things that we've worked on is her having enough confidence in herself to address those teammates, right? She was just telling me when I saw her the other day, one of her teammates was messing with her locker, right? Her teammate was in her locker, taking things, moving things around. And she walked right up to her and said, hey, I don't tolerate people messing with my stuff. I'm not okay with it. I don't allow it. If it happens again, I will tell the coach about it. And I was so impressed with her just to be like, hey, I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to, talk about you behind your back. I'm going to address it with you directly and say, I don't put up with this. This is not how I want to, have practice. And we can be perfectly capable teammates. And go from there. And, she has been crushing it in gymnastics. And it's kind of, it's kind of cool this season where, beam and vault were her two biggest struggles last season. This season, those are her strong suits. And now we're focusing a little bit more on bars and floor. So it's just cool to see that evolution of her, not only just her confidence in herself when it comes to gymnastics, but confidence in herself when it comes to that interpersonal part of her sport. And that's where I know we talk about all the time, where we get really excited, where we want these kids to become better athletes, but it's just really cool. And Brayden, I know you and I were talking about this with one of your kids yesterday, like nothing's cooler than seeing them just grow as a human from the kid who has no interest in sitting on a call, can't sit still, to we can have an hour plus conversation and they are engaged and they are happy and they're, cracking jokes. And like, it's just so cool to see not just this growth in their sport, but their growth as just a human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes it takes time too.
Yeah.
Just like the buy-in is a huge thing. So sometimes it takes a little time for them just to get comfortable and start talking about a topic for sure. Case study that I have here. So I'm working with a middle school, like a younger basketball athlete, and one thing he's struggling with. We're still working through it right now, but definitely made a lot of progress in the past month or so. Struggling with the 3-point shot. Mm-hmm. He's a 1 and a 2. I know that, after some experience.
Combo guard.
There you go. That plays a 1 and a 2. Yeah, point guard, shooting guard, and struggles with the 3. And one of the things when he kind of we broke it down, like what his games looked like and everything, and like he'd go into some games and like go for 3 to start, and like they play a half, so first half and second half, and the second half would pretty much be very resembling of like what the first half would look like. Maybe go out, maybe be afraid to shoot in the second half, maybe take a shot or two. If he had an open shot and might miss it, maybe go, 1 for 8 on the day, or 1 for 7 on the day. And one thing we definitely worked on is like at that halftime, right? Like obviously we want him to eventually be ready and prepped everything for the game, but if it doesn't start the way you want it, like at that halftime, be able to let that first half go, make your adjustments, and come out of the half like it's almost like a brand new half of basketball, and not carry previous shots into, or previous bad shots rather, like into the second half of the game. And I feel like there's definitely been some change there in a positive way, kind of splitting the game up into like 2. Now I know some games are like in quarters. I think high school's is quarters. His kid's in middle school, so I guess they
a little bit
at least
different.
where he plays in 2 halves here. But yeah, splitting the game into 2 rather than looking at, I didn't shoot really well in the beginning of the game, like the whole game's going to be awful for me then. Like kind of splitting it into 2 has been really a cool, like I say, mental tactic, just to like not look at a game as like maybe I started out really bad and the whole game is just awful, but looking as like, hey, there's different parts so you can change a game around pretty quickly at the kind of the halfway point. So definitely something we're still in the process of working on it, but definitely something that kind of came to mind that we worked on recently. So
Nice.
And I like that. I like that you kind of phrased it as like, we've gotten him, he's made some progress. There's still more progress to go. And that is, I think, something that we emphasize a lot with these athletes of this is a never ending, it's an ever evolving process, right? Where, we work with athletes, sometimes for 12 weeks, sometimes for 112 weeks. There really is that big of a range because it's just about, continuing to refine, identify, and grow, where it's let's make some progress, let's go try it, and then let's continue to find what works best for you. So I think that's a great example of how that can work with athletes.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to bring up too. Just like the sheer amount of time that you could see someone like us, or at whatever school you're at too. It's you have this introductory part phase. You start learning these skills, you start acquiring them and implementing them, and then it's about, to Abby's point, once you get to that later on stage, this refinement and just like this total refinement and just continuous maintenance, which is always really cool to see when you start that process along, and you have these people continue on, because you can see that exact plan that I think each of us try to follow, just start building out and seeing it in real time. Is really cool. It takes a long time.
It does.
It's cool to see it play out.
But nothing's better than when you see an athlete be like, hey, remember how like a couple weeks ago we talked about this and we haven't brought it up since? I thought about that today, and I tried it and I did this little spin on it to make it my own, and it worked perfectly for me. And that's that's where we get excited, and I think that's where we see the fulfillment. And
You remembered.
Yeah, being like, wow, you did listen. But just seeing that, they're learning how to implement some of this stuff on their own and take it and make it their own. Like, that's where I think we start to get really excited beyond wins and losses on their end. Like, we can see them just actively learning and implementing, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So let's see, you went middle school, you went high school.
She's 8th grade.
Eighth grade. No, I was just gonna go. I guess I'll.
Yeah, go high school.
I was gonna go college. I thought.
There you go. There you go. Okay, I'll go high school on my next one.
My listening ears were not as fine tuned as I thought. Because the 8-9 gymnastics is an interesting sport.
Gymnastics
you
is
peak early on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gymnastics.
We did have to
The
teach
end.
Braden how to pronounce gymnastics.
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 Yeah, gymnastics is weird because you can be an 11,
You can be
in
the
11th
best.
grade and in level 7, but you can be in 7th grade and in level 9. It's all over the place.
Too many numbers.
Yeah.
But I have a college athlete, a golfer who, first came in and was, just didn't have the fall season that he thought he was going to have. And part of it was making this transition, being one of the best in high school, to kind of now being, middle of the pack, maybe more towards the top, near the top of his college team. And he wants to, improve and be back on top and reach that peak again. And the transition piece is cool to talk about with college athletes, because that will happen across the board. Everyone's going to be a superstar once you get to college, just because it thins out the herd as you keep moving up level by level.
That's a great point.
And I think the really cool thing with him too is just he was open and just like, I know that this is the thing that I need to fix. Sometimes it's just, a lot of times with golfers, my experience so far has been, how do I fix those couple of blow up holes, but how can I just approach the game differently? And I think that's been the cool process so far with him. We're still early on. And the way I kind of go about my process of just like, figuring out what these skills are and learning them, and then eventually, talking a little bit of how we can implement these. But so far he's been great. Been on vacation the past couple weeks, so haven't seen him quite yet. So it'll be interesting to see, catch up and see how a break's been, because a break's always a nice thing to have in sports. I feel like we always feel like it's, go, but it's you need to have that slow down off season period. Every single sport has an off season period, and you have to use it correctly and shut down your body at some point and rest. So hopefully he's been able to do that. And I think the really cool thing, when we talked about buy-in at the start of this, is I think that for me, that's the first thing that I always am focused on in that first session. Is like, if this kid doesn't want to be here, if his parents signed him up, or if he's just like, I'll try it out. So that's the first thing that I'm super, and I always treat it the same for everybody. It's usually not the same. Some kids are super bought in. You can tell that from the start, just the first few words that you say.
Yep.
So I think that was the really cool thing. It's just like he had that kind of instant buy-in and was willing to try things and willing to test things out right away, and wanted the extra work outside of the sessions, which is always cool. My personal philosophy is I'm not going to put in more effort than the athlete across the screen for me. You give me 10%, I'll give you kind of 10%. If you give me 110%, I'll give you 110%. But, I want you to want it as much as I want it for you. And it's tough, because if I put in more effort, right, and you're just going to be like, oh, yeah, no, let's just do this instead, then the session
I
can
like
be
that.
tough sometimes. But but with him, it's been this instant buy-in. It's been really cool to see him grow, and I'm excited to see, because obviously it's the golf off season right now. As we said, there's a snow globe going on outside, so golf is not really existent
golf
in the winter time.
happening in
Usually
upstate.
summertime, spring sport. So I think it'll be interesting to see once he gets back into that season. And the other thing too, I feel like, especially when you reach college and high school a little bit too, maybe in middle school, depending how early you start, is there's other factors, right? And we always talk about the star factor, but he's doing a strength and conditioning regimen over the winter time with the strength and conditioning coaches at the colleges that they have. So he's going to build that side. He's still working on his game and hitting with teammates and swinging when they can, and going to golf simulators. I feel like are all over the place now. So
Yeah, they're cool.
yeah, it's been a good start so far. But that's usually one of the things I'm always focused on at the start, is that getting that buy-in, and then from there it's usually smooth sailing.
Yeah. And I really like that point, because I think, we really do try to meet these athletes where they're at, right? Like, there are those kids where you need to be super energetic. You're, matching their energy. They're just high energy, high enthusiasm kids. And, we'll mirror that and we'll give them that. But then, you have those kids that are a little quieter, a little more soft spoken, and, we will push them out of their comfort zone, but we'll do it in a way that makes sense for them and helps them feel comfortable in the space, because, we all have kind of our own style when we're working with athletes. We all have our own, process of things, but, our goal is to help these athletes. So, being able to adapt to what they need, it's a puzzle sometimes on our end where it's, hey, this normally works with, athletes. This kid's a little bit different, and I'm going to work to get the best experience for them and get them bought into this process. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think one of the other things that I've really enjoyed working with athletes, which, sounds a little weird because they're not enjoying their life, but I've worked with a lot of athletes that have injuries. And I think that's a big piece of this job that maybe I didn't anticipate being so prominent. So one of the athletes that I've worked with, she's getting ready to graduate high school this year, and she's committed to play in college, but she came to us when she was finishing her sophomore season, or going into her sophomore season, I guess, but she had a pretty gnarly ACL injury. Soccer player, ACL injury her freshman year, pretty traumatic injury, surgery, rehab, PT, all of these things. Gets back into she missed freshman soccer season for high school, missed freshman club season, rehabs all summer, gets cleared, like second game back into the season, re-tears the same ACL. And I just remember getting that text from her mom and just being like, oh my God, this is not happening. Like, this is not happening. And just seeing her kind of fight through that self-identity of, I'm on the sidelines, I can't play. I thought I was healed. I did everything right the first time, and this is happening again. Just helping her understand who she is in her sport, but also outside of her sport. It was a very interesting dynamic where we were talking all this mental performance topics, but she was still on crutches when I first met her. Like, she was fresh out of surgery. I think on our first session, she was like laying with her leg propped up. So that was a challenge for me to kind of, adapt it and use, some of these topics of confidence, self-talk, pre-game routines, all of this. But we were talking about it with her physical therapy and her rehabilitation from her surgeries, and just watching her kind of come back and learn how to, figuratively and literally stand on her own 2 feet again. And, a lot of that self-doubt and feeling like she's getting overlooked by coaches and overlooked for some of these accolades that were, very important to her, because it kind of helped summarize her story. And one of the things she would always say is, I know what it means for me to be back out on the field, but I want other people to know what it means for me to be out on the field, so that, hopefully I can inspire somebody else. There's a lot of, she wanted to pay it forward and kind of finish the story. And then, she ended up tearing a hamstring her senior year. Like, this poor girl, like, just, it was always something. And, she ended up committing to a school that she's really, really happy about. It's kind of in her home area, so her family can go and support her. She won one of the big awards and accolades that was really important to her. And it just was so cool to kind of see her through that. So, at some point we talked a lot about soccer, but it wasn't necessarily the nerves on the field. It wasn't necessarily handling wins and losses. It was, we're talking about our sport, but working through injury and that self-identity. And I've had a couple of athletes that have, maybe not to that extent, but gone through injuries. And that is something that I think we've all found with our athletes is so beneficial and something that we feel like these athletes gain a lot from working with a mental performance coach through that process.
Nice.
I know that's a lot of injuries.
Yeah, and it's hard and nothing.
Taxing.
Yeah, and I mean, even you yesterday were talking about first it's a concussion, then it's a wrist injury, and you just want to like wrap them in bubble wrap and be like, I just want you to take care of your body. Like, I just want you to take care of yourself. And, you do get invested in these kids' lives and
Shut it down.
yeah, want them to be healthy, happy
The
individuals.
ACL stuff is that's
Oh,
rough.
it's gnarly,
The ACL
man.
Stuff is tough to see. Yeah. That's like a whole year, right?
Yeah, it was almost 2 full years of
9
recovery.
9 months.
Usually it's like the fastest.
Yep. And then she did a little bit more, and then it
Achilles.
just all, and
The rear tear rate on like an ACL is like in the 30%,
Yeah, it was tough.
If you re-tear,
especially going at the high level. So
Yeah, she's a beast. So,
yeah. That's why you need someone like us sometimes.
Dude,
You know?
Yeah.
There's not much conditioning that you're gonna do. There's not much physical training, but there's mental training that you can do. That
Yeah, and she, I think, comes from a family that really understood, she needs to keep working towards something. She can't do it on the field, so
Right.
let's do it from this other avenue. And, she ends up just being one of those kids where you adore them. They have families, they're the nicest families ever. We always say, like, the mom is so nice, and, but this family really in particular, they just get it. And it was cool to get to kind of be part of that story for her.
Yeah, because especially with the multiple injuries like that over years, it's like, why not just hang it up, hang up the cleats,
Taxing.
retire. It's an important piece that you can have to, like you said, just like this will push her to be in the right spot later on down the road, which it seems like it has. Which is cool.
Yeah.
So let's get to my second athlete.
Yeah.
I guess.
It's cool to hear like all the different kind of avenues and why people come to us.
So I worked with a bunch of quarterbacks, but I'm gonna just bring one of their cases out just here back from the fall. He struggled with. He was a high school quarterback. Struggled with. I just say like high anxiety. It was like that mixed with a little bit of nervousness, mixed with a little bit just like just excessive, just like heartbeat and everything like that. Like, just like a lot of those things that just come along with anxiety, just nervousness in general. And football is just one of those games where you have to acknowledge, especially at pretty much in any position, maybe not kicker and punter. Even they do get in there physically sometimes, ever so often, but pretty much any position on the field, like you also acknowledge or just realize before the game, like you're going to be going through a lot of physical contact for a pretty substantial period of time.
Yeah,
here.
it's not one and done.
It's not just like one or two hits, right? A lot of physical contact, especially at the quarterback position. Like if you're going against like a really good team week in and week out, there's like different ranked teams and everything. Like there's some defensive linemen that are 300 plus pounds that want to take your head off, and like that's just like the thought of that beforehand made him very, very nervous. And which would probably
I was
make
going to
a lot
say
of
that
people
makes
nervous.
sense to me.
But we really worked through like how do you manage that? Like his big thing was pregame. Pregame, you just like get very flustered. Once he got in the game, it was fine.
Yeah.
It was pretty much fine. Like he'd take a hit, maybe be feel a little bit, he'd take a hit, but he would get it. It'd be
He could get up and
he can get
play
up
the
and
rest
then keep
of-
moving.
yeah.
It was the pregame, and even maybe a day or two before, the night before it's also a big thing as well. And one thing we really worked on was more so of like it was a breathing technique, but like something he could really go to in the moment, like a quick intake breath and release. Obviously, like when he was right about to go on the field, he can't just sit on the ground and meditate or anything like that. It's just something we worked on for him the night before. But just these quick breaths in and out to slow down the heart rate and just to like almost, I want to say like not worry about what's going to happen per se, because there's a lot of things he had to think about. But pretty much like the heart rate was a big thing, and he started to sweat a little bit as well. Like just slow that down, slow the whole process down. Whether it's a ranked team, whether it's the worst team in the state, slow the heart rate down, slow the thoughts down, and just go into that game thinking, what does he have to do to be successful, right? Like run through the plays in his head, run through the things that are really important for him to be successful on a Friday night, rather than everything else that he can't control. He's not going to be able to control, how fast someone runs there or where he gets hit. He can't control really any of that. So being able to basically control what he could control, but also being able to slow down the heart rate, slow down his thoughts, and just kind of go into a game, really focused on what he had to get done as an athlete on the field, which is really big. I think like those positions, especially quarterback, there's so much to think through. So
seriously,
it wasn't too tough to have him focus on something else, because there's always something they have to think about every single play, the call, the reading the defense and
call protection,
just really looking at the safety, just like literally everything.
It's just right. It's like,
so
have you ever
things.
seen those videos where they put a GoPro on a quarterback's helmet to you can understand like how much information they need to see, process, and react, and then decision make too? Like I think those are like
get like as a
wild
videos.
videos.
Seconds. I mean, you get your first read, second read, and there's probably somebody in your face.
Yeah.
So like you
it's
gotta
wild
be able
to
to
me.
move quick. So, but yeah, just like those pregame jitters, like getting rid of that, just like kind of just like decreasing a lot of that. Because I told him in the beginning, I'm like, are we 100% going to wipe that out where you feel nothing? No way. Like you're still going to be nervous, which is fine.
Yeah.
But like, how we limit it so it's not like severely affecting you when you walk in the field and you're actually shaking during like a coin toss. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
you don't
That's not
want
what we
that.
need.
No,
Yeah.
we don't want that. So like that's something we worked on over the end of summer, fall, and I felt he had a pretty good season. I really do. I felt he had a really good year. So
that's awesome.
Nice. Yeah, I guess for my last case study, I'll go with one of my pros. So, played overseas basketball in Spain when I was working at the time. No longer playing overseas in Spain. Different. I think he's in London. Last I checked, which is pretty cool. But
You mean not Ohio?
not Ohio.
Not Cleveland in the snow globe?
Overseas, probably in
Can you
warm
find
weather.
it there too?
You could find something there.
Over the lake.
The pond.
Over the
Across
pond.
Nice try.
Close though.
But kind of, was a great high school basketball player, local, went through college, played in college, knew he wanted to play pros, played not overseas, I guess, over the border in Canada, and then moved across seas because it just wasn't a good fit. And that's kind of where this whole thing started, was seems like, I need you to help me get rid of the bad coaching and just destroy
that's a
my
big one.
absolute
That's a big
confidence.
one.
And that was something I was like, absolutely, we can like try to work through that. But also then adjusting to this whole new style of European basketball. It was really cool, and moving to just a different country, and moving way far away from home.
Yeah,
Canada's
right. There's a
still
lot of
close.
different pieces to that.
6-hour time change, all of that. So it was a really cool sessions, kind of worked through, what is confidence? How can you find more of it? What are the sources that you can kind of get through with him? And he ate that up, loved that, went through the different mental skills. But I think it was eventually later on when we started going through this MAP model, this multi-action plan thing of like, how do you switch levels and shift gears, and to figure out when you're playing, where am I at and how can I move and adjust? So if I have my app, like defining out what your, A-level effortless performance looks like, what is your B-level average, effortful performance look like? And then what's that C-level of like, absolute trash, but it's trash, versus the, other kind of maybe C-D level of like, what's this, is it, I'm playing bad, but is there a way for me to get it back? And we just recorded a podcast on mental toughness and resilience right before this. So that's where can I be mentally tough and resilient?
Good
Go listen to
callback.
that.
That was
And-
good.
Right, good callback. Episode something. Can you
Couldn't
go
tell you.
and can you get up and switch these levels? And so there was that, and then we'd break it down like physically, what does each of these things feel like? Mentally, what does it feel like? Technically, tactically, and recognizing that, to your point, like some of these things might not change, but some of these things are going to be at different points too. You might be at an A physically, you feel great that day, but mentally a little foggy.
Yeah.
Technically, something's a little off maybe, and just figuring out what those performances are and reflecting after. This was, A level. This was effortless today. This was effortful. This was, slightly below average. This just was one of those bad off days. Because that's something my other big philosophy point is like, I have this like 10-80-10 rule. And it's like, we took a sample of 10 of your performances and laid them out, right? 1 to 2 are going to be really great, amazing. You never played better. And then 1 to 2, they're going to be the opposite end. You played awful. And you may know why for both those things. You may not know why on either ends of those things. Maybe you didn't get enough sleep. Maybe you, stressed out. You have all this homework or something. Maybe it was, I followed all my routines exactly. Or everything was off, but I still came out and just somehow played really well.
Right.
And then it's the 6 to 8 where, I feel we can make the biggest difference of how can we make those average performances skew over to the better side. Thank you.
You didn't get the hand motion.
Skew over to the good side rather than skew over to the bad side.
Yeah, we don't want that. We want this.
So how can we kind of define that out? And I think that was really helpful for him to see. And I think just the perspective shift that he kind of had in terms of, you don't have to do that hand motion. The perspective shift.
I don't know if I was supposed to do that too.
The perspective shift that, he kind of took. And I talk with we're over Zoom and Google Meets.
We gotta be expressive.
Because I can't just do this the whole time and talk to you. I gotta be expressive. So it was just cool to see how he shifted his perspective over time and, had a really great year. And that's why he gets to continue on playing in different countries and, live life and enjoy it and get to play professional basketball, which, a lot of kids, have dreamed about at one point. So,
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's cool. And I think, just even with these 6 athletes that we talked about, right? We have
Athlete X,
right? Right? Self-doubt, injury, nerves, negative coaching, playing at the next level, confidence. These are things where, there's so much content, we kind of boiled it down into simple things, but these have been hours and hours of conversations and research that we do on our end, months. Long time. But I think it's,
School.
Exactly. But
Years
I
of school.
hope it's a good glimpse that, there's not just one type of athlete that benefits from mental performance coaching, right? Never have we had somebody kind of come in the door and just be like, nope, that's not an issue we can kind of manage. That's not a topic that we can cover, right? There's always something. Every athlete has, such a diverse background. They come from different states, different sports, different ages, different family support, good coaching, bad coaching, individual sports, team sports, and there's always so much that we find we can work on beyond just, the presenting problem.
Yeah.
Or presenting thing. It always expands. It always goes more. And, I think, speaking for myself and I think for everybody, like we do get connected to these kids. We do, want success for them in their sport and out of their sport. So, it's just cool to see such a diverse background of athletes that all, still see success. They all find their own way, and it's cool to be part of that.
Yeah. I think the big thing too to also mention is, this is about helping people with these issues, but also it's just, this is sports psychology is born out of this whole positive psychology idea of like, if you're just at your baseline and you don't know what that next step is, there could be nothing wrong. You have no confidence issues.
Yeah.
You feel like you're a great performer. This is what can take you to that next level.
Yeah, you don't have to be sick to get better.
Yeah. It's
good.
it's not about, getting you from sick to baseline. It's about getting you baseline to better sometimes as well.
And for it to expand, to expand beyond just sport, right? It's cool when we see them excel and grow and succeed and hit these milestones of, I learned how to drive a car, right? I'm graduating. I got my first college
Turning
acceptance.
18.
I'm turning 18. You just had one of those, right? Or, I'm turning 13 or I'm having my sweet 16. These are things
Turning
where,
25.
where we just get invested and we love to see these kids succeed. So, if any of the things that we talked about today, you're like, wow, that's me, that's something I would want to work on. Or, if there's something else and you're not sure if that's something that would, fit into this space, I can pretty much answer you now. Yes, it will. But you can always reach out to us and we can kind of dive into what are some topics, what are some avenues that we could take to kind of get you where you want to be and beyond.
Yeah. DMS, put us in the make a comment, whatever it is. We'll reach out.
We're on all social medias. We have our website. Just Google Sharpen Skills Training. You'll find us.
Yeah.
And we'll
And
get
you
rolling.
can find it here.
And you can find it here
In the snow globe.
in the snow globe.
So
So,
enthusiastic.
Or over Zoom.
Or over Zoom.
actually, yes,
yeah, for
Google
all
actually-
of my kids this week that were
Yeah.
sitting somewhere nice and warm,
Yeah, you guys are lucky.
and when you're telling me it's so cold because it's 70 degrees, I am continuing to roll my eyes at you. You know who you are.
Call them out.
Call them out.
Call them out. Hashtag let them know. Yeah.
There you go. All right. We'll see you guys next episode.
If you like what you're listening to, be sure to follow the Athlete Cafe on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. You can find us wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts.